Thank you, Susan. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a wonderful day here in Atlanta. The birds are chirping and the sun is shining, and it just gives us every reason to be thankful for all that this beautiful planet has given us. And I'm really excited to be given the opportunity to chat with you today about how to design a healthy home on a tight budget. I'm trying to advance the, there we go. Sorry about that. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is the contemplation of who is in the audience today for this seminar. And I'm thinking that we're speaking to a retail group and the interior designers and maybe a few manufacturers. And in all cases, the budget is what we need to be thinking about when we're designing and when we're putting our shops together and we're merchandising. And we've really grown up in a world of consumption, especially in the United States. We're one of the largest consumers globally. And I think the main message I want to send today is really that we need to be thinking before we consume. And that is pretty much an easy thought process when you look at a home as an interior designer and make the decision, make that mental decision from day one that you're going to really look hard at the furnishings that are in the home before you decide to put them in a landfill. So often the furniture that was produced back in the 30s and the 40s is constructed so much better than the furniture that's being constructed today. We want to make sure that we look at the materials, and if they were to go into a landfill and create havoc with our planet, it's another reason to take a second look and think about how we can reuse and rework a piece. And as we think about those, we need to also keep in mind, if we do make the decision to refurbish, that we do it in a mindful way that's good for you and good for your families and good for your clients. So we speak mainly to the volatile organic compounds that are in paints and stains and adhesives. In addition to that, coupling with vintage fabrics and remnants, we really can pull together a nice design for your stores and for your clients. I always like to start with the walls and the floors. As you know, our company name is Wellness Within Your Walls. And I believe if you start with healthy floors and healthy walls and healthy ceilings, you've already got about 80% of the visual out of the way. So that is really important percentages that need to be considered. And then most importantly, we need to be challenging ourselves as it relates to innovative and new designs and also with old ideas that are reborn. I wanted to put a little group of pictures together to just give you the feeling of what a healthy home or a healthy setting may look like. It's not void of color. It certainly could be monochromatic, but pops of color are always a great way to get a good healthy design, and that's usually through your paint and your upholstery. And in this home, we see a lot of linen being used, a lot of sisal, a lot of seagrass, a lot of cotton, remnant stones. And in this, we see the same. It's an extension of the home going into old mirror being used for dining tables, slip covering older chairs that might have passed their prime, using minimal drapery treatments to let maximum light in. This kitchen is all Energy Star, which goes hand in hand with wellness. And there's a lot of great products out there that are in the Energy Star program. Often new homes and also new retail stores do not have enough ventilation, and that is a concern. We want to make sure from the very beginning that we have great airflow, and when we are refurbishing, we want to make sure that we use, as I said, adhesives that have no VOCs. This is a great example of how to bring an older ceiling to life. This house is 1970s, and the client really wanted to do a wood ceiling, but when the budget came back, it was a bit too expensive, and she also had a real concern about not using trees. And so there are fabulous wall coverings out there that are no VOC, and they can be installed with very low emitting adhesives and to give you a really warm and really pleasant look. There are other woods that have more texture to them, so depending on what the look is that you're going for, but look how beautiful this ceiling relates to the beautiful tree and the green outside the window. And there are no window treatments. We're maximizing the light from outside, and really Mother Nature becomes the artwork in the room, and we're embracing just what's outside the door. Another innovative way to save money is slip covering your furniture, and then take a bookcase and either take remnant wall coverings or small amounts of wall coverings that, again, are either hand printed or using low or no VOC admitting inks, and you can get a real pleasant look that ties back into existing furniture. A smaller scale version of that could be done in a kitchen, where you remove your cabinet doors, you give a nice fresh coat of paint, an accent behind, either with wall covering, or many shops today that have art supplies of beautiful handmade papers that are all done in vegetable dyes and botanicals, and they certainly can add a real nice pop of color in a kitchen. This can be done with old books. So often you'll find that books, if they're left around too long, they'll tend to get musty, and you really can take a book, cut it up, put it outside, tea wash them, let the sun get to them, and use them to decorate walls and also furniture. Another nice idea to bring a little bit more of a classic design into a home is to take a small amount of wall covering and use it in a niche, or by taking minimal window treatments and minimal rugs, letting your floors show, showing off vintage furniture, and then adding a big swash of color, in this case, nice bright tangerine. Open spaces are really important to health. It certainly allows you to bring in the light. In this case, we needed a privacy area, so this beautiful drapery behind the tub creates privacy, but also allows the natural light to come into the space. This was a 1970s residence with a built-in tub, typical of a production builder, and the client decided that they wanted a more modernized look, so they tore out the tub. They reworked all of the shower area, put a lot of glass in, and it just really is a nice open airy feeling between the master suite and the bathroom, and gives a spa feel, which has a really healthy feel. I love to take objects that are not necessarily intended for the wall. In this case, these are feather headdresses, but kuba cloths look beautiful on walls, and you can use lots of different products on a wall to bring a really nice look that's very inexpensive. This is a very collected room. As you can see, it's a lot of white walls, white ceiling, which helps bounce the light. Again, draperies were not part of this design. It really just shows a really nice feeling as it relates to a healthy look. But then you'll note that there's lots of little flea market finds in the accessorization. Things that might find their way to an attic or a basement can be pulled out and placed against a beautiful white palette. Another example of this is, I found this on the internet. This is very much a 1970s house to the left with a stone fireplace. It could be a lake house, a mountain house. And the owner of the home refurbished it to have a little bit more of a Jonathan Adler flair. They took the wall covering idea and popped it into the back of the bookcases. They painted the stone, extended the visuals with a mirror, which adds a window to a wall that did not have one, and also reflects the beautiful crystal chandelier. Really a great example of night and day, and in all cases the no VOC paints were used, and lots of wool and linen and cotton. This is a fantastic example of a can of paint going a long way. Just a nice green paint, livens the walls up, mixed in with other greens. There's probably 4 or 5 greens in that room. The lamp being one, the accent pillows being the other, and the throw. And there are some great resources out there that are retail when decorating. Cost Plus, they do a really nice job, and they really acknowledge the cottage industry. And at High Point, you'll see lots of wonderful opportunities for accent pillows that are all made with natural fiber. They're stuffed with down, or they have recycled product in them. The embroidered draperies could very well be a man-made drapery that just, a ready-made drapery that just has an accent on it. It could be embroidery, or it could be stenciled. So the conversation that really needs to take place as it relates to the budget is, what is the difference in a can of paint? Because I hear more and more that healthy design is more expensive. Well, the truth of the matter is, it is true that a VOC paint is less expensive than a no VOC paint, but the difference is really $5. So if you're thinking that in a room it takes 2 gallons of paint to do an entire room, that's a $10 more investment, which I really think is is a very inexpensive way to get a great look. But keep in mind when painting, you have to use a no VOC primer. If you do no VOC paint on top of a VOC primer, you're undoing all of the good work of the no VOCs. So here we have, again, draperies that are ready-mades. They're banded in an accent color that might tie in with an area rug. Here we have paints that are used to accent the back of a bookcase as well as the four walls. Nice light sage color. And we did the reverse here. You have light draperies and light upholstery, and the colors are actually used in accessories and on the wall color. You'll have to forgive me, my controls are sticking a little bit. So there we go. So here we have our furniture is white painted, the walls are accent colored, and then it's the accessories that make the statement. Again, a very inexpensive way to get a great look and a great pop of color. Some folks like the idea of using paneling, and it certainly does add a lot to a room, but it can be an expensive execution. So think about using it on one wall only, and also think about the idea of taking your trim mold, applying it to the drywall, then painting the drywall and the trim in a semi-gloss, which then alludes to the fact that the drywall is actually a wood treatment applied to the walls. I also would like to make the point that it's important that you think about the mattresses that you sleep on. You spend a minimum of 5 to 8 hours a night in your beds, and there are healthy beds out there, and then there are beds that you purchase them, you bring them home, you bring them into your home, you realize you have to put them in the garage for a few days to off-gas because they're laden with toxins. Very important part of the design process that is overlooked. For those of you that have retail stores, I highly suggest that you get a mattress line that is natural. Naturepedic is one of our Sustainable Furnishing Council members. They do a fantastic job. And when you're selling your linens, you should also be thinking about selling a mattress to the homeowner for that healthy, wonderful feeling of an 8-hour sleep. I think graphics go a long way. Creating messaging on walls is a wonderful way to be health conscious as it relates to the fresh air and opening up the windows and doing things that your grandmother might have done and the sayings that might have come out of her books that she may have had on her bookcases that evoke a feeling of days gone by, and you're really able to decorate large square footages with small amounts of accent paint. Another example of that is mixing the stencils in with the vintage and remnant fabrics that can create a beautiful daybed setting. Also, messaging on a wall that might be poetry or something that means something to you, or if you're making a statement in your shops and you're playing into a theme, you can do that through the stenciling that can easily be painted over with that no VOC paint at a later date. The accent wall, again, goes a long way. I showed you a moment ago how you can do that with trim details. Here we do it with just a can of paint. So the entire room was done in a white, neutral color, and then the color was pulled from the blue glass and the blue boxes and the blue pillows to create a very open, airy, and warm, and it is a very inexpensive way to get a great look. The same holds true in a children's room. You can put up a wonderful chair rail, leave a neutral paint below, and do your accent paint above, and then pop some beautiful art off, and in all cases letting as much light into the room as possible. It is proven that vitamin D definitely contributes to helping keep cancer at bay, so I think that is something we need to think about in our designs. Rather than going with dark cave colors where they certainly have their place, but for the majority of a home, it should be light, bright, and airy, and we should take advantage of north-facing and south-facing and really understand where the sun is coming into the homes and to the stores that we are merchandising. Clean and tailored slip covering is everything. Not only can you buy new through companies like Lee Industries and Cisco Furniture, who are members of the Sustainable Furnishings Council, but you should really take a look at what you have existing in your clients' homes, or possibly if you've had a sofa that you haven't moved on the floor in your store for a while, certainly consider using a slip cover to give it a new look. That also can be said for vintage textiles. The flea markets throughout the United States, swap meets, and certainly the estate sale that you can go to on a weekend demonstrate wonderful, wonderful linens, whether they are lace or they're made from old grain bags. And a lot of times you'll fall into button collections that can be used to trim and detail. I also think it's wonderful to take a look at what you've created as it relates to your photography. The world is such a smaller place now. We're able to travel at a moment's notice, and our iPhones are with us and ever present. So to be able to print off the pictures and not just have everything be so digital. In this case, over the fireplace, there must be about 50 to 60 pictures that have been used to decorate. It's very simple. They can be put in a little plexi holder or just simply put on a magnetic field and pinned up to a wall. It really gives a great, well-traveled look and a quick and easy way to decorate. Also, on your travels, you may find that you pick up a remnant piece of fabric or an old flag, but it can cover large square footage, and a textile can go a long way in making a statement in a room. In this case, the red is a nice swash of color that's up high. We can apply that also with vintage fabrics and remnants. You can buy from Michael's and any number of the different art and craft shops around the country frames that are basically 4 pieces of wood that are clipped together in the corners, and then you can stretch over them remnant fabrics that you can apply by using a stapler. And this makes a really nice presentation, and it's a very inexpensive way to get a really good look. The same goes true with origami. In this case, there was windmills that were used. It gives a lot of dimension, especially for a baby's changing table, looking up, and it really plays host to something that's very important as it relates to sustainability. I was just in California and drove through Palm Desert and was thrilled to see how many windmills were out there creating electricity, and I think we can never start too early in sharing those stories with our children on what we should be doing to help us have a healthier and more sustainable world. Found objects are very important to the design process, mainly because they've off-gassed already and they bring character to a room. I'm a real advocate for buying older cars because the flame retardants have certainly dissipated. Same is true with recycling products. If they did at any time have chemicals involved in their production, the off-gassing takes place, and then they are safe to use again inside the home. Decorating with different frames, whether once again they come from a flea market or from your local Michael's, but you can get a real montage mixing old and new, and it creates a point of interest in an inexpensive way. The same can be done with maps and also images that can be taken from old books. And I just love the idea of taking old street signs and making them into a backsplash in a kitchen or a bookcase. Often you will see these types of things at salvage yards or again at a flea market or an antique show. Often we will inherit china or be given china or find a piece of china that we like, but the teacup was chipped or the saucer was broken or a plate might have a little piece missing. And I think that's a wonderful opportunity to take these. It's a very easy execution to break apart the china, mix it in with small mosaics. You can decorate dressers, tabletops. You can also decorate mirrors, and it's a really wonderful look and gives a nod to days gone by. Found objects in nature can be used to decorate with. It's always nice to find wood that has a smell or an odor to it. Pine gives a really nice smell. There's a lot of other products out there that are used in new manufacturing that are old, and I would look for those, especially with High Point coming up. There's some really good folks out there that are doing a great job. Also taking a glass cylinder, decorating with fruit, and there's not enough to be said about natural wax candles or soy candles. Stay away from the paraffins. You don't want a paraffin burning in your home because it actually is setting off a VOC that is not healthy. Innovative use of wood and found objects. I would prefer when you're out buying and shopping that you make this, you ask the question, are these objects made from fallen trees? And that is preferred. You certainly don't want to be harvesting when it's not necessary, or from a resource that is not doing their due diligence as it relates to sustainability. I think mid-century has definitely had a wonderful run for the last 10 years. Notice here, though, in this picture that the etagères that are 1970s are mixed in with a sofa that's early 60s, and then you've got a trunk that actually could be from the 20s or the 30s used as a coffee table. There should be no lines drawn between the decades. We should be able to take special classic details from the past and put them all together and maybe refresh them with some wonderful pillows or a great accent rug. It's a nice, sustainable way to design, and it's also a healthy way to design because the toxins are not present. Reclaimed barn doors really come onto the forefront as being a new way to address a space. They allow for larger openings. When the doors are pushed back, it in return allows for much more light to flood into a room. They also can pose as a piece of art, and if painted with a no VOC primer and a no VOC paint, it's a nice, quick, easy way to create a panel in a home that adds to architecture as well. In this case, it was a door that was not painted. It's been reconstructed out of old wood and old iron. The entire home is white on white on white, and then you have this architectural element that just pops and certainly makes a wonderful statement. Updated hardware and hinges in a kitchen make a difference. That rule of thumb certainly can come into play when refurbishing furniture as well. I wanted to show you 3 different ways you could take a regular door and bring it to life in a room. Again, in each case, the rooms are fairly neutral. The door on the left, the applied molding is what was accented. The door in the middle, the entire door was accented, and as you can see, it only ties to the carpet on the floor. And then the door on the right, completely neutral with accents of the black, and then painting the door blue, and then the accents of the trim. Again, create a piece of art in the room, an architectural detail that once was missing. Cannot say enough about decorating with plants. They give off oxygen. We are seeing that the living walls are catching on. This is a more modern expression of a living wall. This can be put together at places like the Container Store. But you can take old crates and piece them together, or boxes, and hang them outside or inside. They make a beautiful display. You also can do the same thing with herbs and put them on a wall next to a stove in a kitchen near a window and just snip away as you're cooking from your living wall. I also think it's a great way to create screening in an exterior space, and it really brings Mother Nature right into the view. Before you are quick to throw out a light fixture, think about what you might be able to do to it. Painting it with a no VOC paint, replacing a bulb with a new Edison bulb that has certainly been very revered in the marketplace as a trend, and it doesn't seem to be going away. But this is a nice, big, open kitchen and a very inexpensive light fixture that's been refurbished to give it a new look. The same thing can be hold true with wine bottles. LED has arrived and it's staying. We're moving away from fluorescence because of the mercury that's involved in the bulb. LED 10 years ago was a highway light fixture. Today they have found a way to come up with 6 different lights within an LED bulb that give you the softness that an original incandescent bulb had. They're a little bit expensive, but they do last for up to 3 and 4 years. And they've gotten a lot better. It was that they would burn out quickly and you had to replace maybe 40% of the bulbs, and that was about 4 years ago. Now the burnout rate on a new LED is about 10%, so you lose maybe 10% of your bulbs when you redo an entire home, but they are striving to have it be that all the bulbs are replaced within 4 years, not just the bulb here and there that blows out early. This is a great idea as it relates to taking old pens, refurbishing them into a light fixture that gives a level of a crystal grandeur, but it's actually Bic pens. Very innovative idea, and it's just a reminder that those innovations are all around us. Just really is a matter of putting your mind to it. Reclaimed tin tiles have been around a while. We're still seeing them. They've not lost their trend as it relates to wall hangings, using them for mirrors, using them for headboards. They really are a nice architectural treatment and an inexpensive way to decorate. Refurbishing old cabinets with new colors. This is a 1970s kitchen that the island was replaced with a green paint. A new Corian top was added, and new hardware, and it just took a very, very simple design and updated it just through paint and hardware. The same can be applied to old furniture. As you can see on the left, the before and after, and then the furniture on the right just shows you a little bit more detailing of how you can get a scrubbed look. And I do think it's really fun how this designer has taken this piece and then popped it against a chevron patterned wall with the black and white, and it gives you a real fun and inexpensive look just through, again, a can of paint. And same holds true. This was an old piece of furniture that was a maple wood, and again, the hardware was removed. It was painted in an accent color, and it brings a real architectural element to this monochromatic color scheme. And it does allow you to enjoy the other elements in the room as it relates to the trim detailing of this older home. Tractor seats can be repurposed into bar stools. They've been around for a while, and I think it's a really charming way to reuse an old industrial farm piece of equipment. Make sure you look for the formaldehyde-free cabinets. Ask the questions. It's not just a matter of meeting CARB, the California standard. It's going deeper. Often in the United States, we tend to go to the minimum when we should be going to the maximum as it relates to the standard, because the maximum does ensure that you're reducing toxins in the home when you design above the what's regulated by the government. Another great opportunity is to take an old armoire, the top of it, break it away from the bottom. The bottom could be used as a dresser in a bedroom, and the top could be used as a cabinet in a kitchen. Again, if you refurbish, use the no VOC paints. If it's been milk washed, often it's best just to not tamper with it. The value of the piece often is in the old finish. But you do want to stay away from lead-based paint. If you are worried about how to abate lead-based paint, there's all sorts of information on the internet that can help you with that. But most importantly, you need to wear a mask and make sure that you are not in contact with the dust particles. Handmade baskets from the cottage industry can certainly add a lot of to a room. On your travels, if you're picking up a basket here and there, after about 10 years, you pull them all out together and put them up on a wall, and it's a memory that you'll have forever. It's also something that you can do in your shop windows to attract the passerby, as well as with your interior design clients, rummaging through their dressers and their drawers and their attics and their closets, and helping bring everything out onto big sheets laid out in your living rooms and great rooms, and just take a hard look at what you can refurbish and how you can take these objects and use them throughout your design. Same holds true with simple hooks, old straw hats that might not have the shape that is desired, but they still have the workmanship of the cottage industry, or hand-dyed indigo scarves that can be hung to add a swash of color to a room. The same holds true in an area that might be considered a mud room, decorating with menus and old pictures from books, and maybe taking textiles that really speak to you in terms of color and shape and design. I love the idea of live edge as it applies to home furnishings, but often it will be expensive. So I'm all about a little bit can go a long way. An example of that is on the left. This beautiful island has a live edge, but it's not the entire piece. Whereas on the right, this is a full piece of live edge that probably is a little bit more expensive as it relates to an execution. I wanted you to see both of them side by side. Do not rule out live edge because of price point. Just try to figure out how you can use a little bit to go a long way. Same holds true with crates. There's so much that we're shipping. There's obviously the big discussion of whether we should be buying 700 miles from where we live, or is it really conducive to bringing in products from overseas. I think that's a conversation that we could have an entire different seminar on, but I would like you to keep in mind that there are crates out there that are made from recycled wood, and rather have them end up in a landfill or not be repurposed or reused. We certainly can take the wood, use it as a headboard, use it as art, wall art, use it for bookcases. It also can be used in reclaiming the wood for wall treatments, as you see here on the left, as well as the island in this kitchen, potentially a headboard with a built-in nightstand, nice inexpensive treatment. Often it is very expensive to decorate an entire wall with bookcases. Another way to get around that expense and the execution is by cantilevering reclaimed wood shelves, and you can just spread them out on a wall, which gives you a much more complete finished look. Here we have an example of taking shadow boxes, hanging them on the wall, and using them for a collage with objects above. In this case, these are small chairs from the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. We are seeing more and more kitchens with exposed dishes and bowls and glasses. Another great way to have them displayed is on very thick pieces of reclaimed wood. In this case, they are 2.5 inches or more, and they add a nice architectural detail. I think one of the most forgotten spaces in a home is under the staircase. This is a fantastic treatment on how you can take that part of the home and have it's in the kitchen, and you're able to store bowls and kettles and dishes and glasses along with your cookbooks, and even a little place to put your shoes underneath. Because you do know that when you come into your home, you should remove your shoes. You don't want to be tracking in pesticides from your neighbor's garden, and so you want to have your shoes out of the way. And generally, I like to see them outside of the home. Reclaimed wood for a coffee table. Again, this is a really wonderful, inexpensive treatment. It's a log that's been cut into 9 pieces and then mounted onto an iron base. There are ironmongers all over this country. You just have to get in the yellow pages or on the internet to find them and go in and create with them, which can always be a lot of fun for them and for you. Juxtaposing nature to accent paints. This is a very inexpensive treatment. The blue wall with the bed made of the aspen wood. It actually could be tied together with string. It doesn't necessarily have to be nailed together. And then this old ladder with the feathers, just adding a touch of light bright to the overall design. When remodeling, don't forget to address exterior walls when you bring them on the interior. This wall was an outside wall claimed on the interior of the home. We made the decision not to clad it with paint or stucco it, but let the architectural detailing be part of this. The walls fitted with anything. There was no chemicals to be stripped. It was in its best light for Mother Earth and used appropriately. Don't forget that remnants of wool can be used in small carpets. They can also be used to accent chairs. This is a great look that's being reborn from the 1970s, and it really is a great way to use old pieces of remnants. I'm also in favor of foregoing a rug, especially when you've got beautiful hardwoods to show off. It's also a lot cleaner. You don't have the dander and the dust getting caught up in your rugs. I'm a big in favor of having no rugs in the summertime and then rolling them out for the winter months when you need them to help as it relates to making your home warmer. Here's another example of no rugs being used. It's a light, bright, airy room, and I really like the idea of taking jewelry displays that might be left over from an old retail environment and reusing them as an accent table. The raffia on these chairs in this room is another wonderful way to get a great look for an inexpensive amount of money on refurbishing a chair. Leave the soft upholstery where the seat is and something more tactile that's visual on the sides. Natural woven rugs go a really long way. They're less expensive than wool rugs. Be careful though, stay away from those that smell like a barnyard, and if they do, make sure you put them in your garage or a warehouse to off-gas them, because even natural textiles can have products in them that are not good for your lungs. So aerating natural products is as important as aerating those that have been treated with something that's a man-made material. Here's a great example of foregoing the draperies, letting the furniture in the room really make the statement and allowing maximum light in. Remember the message I had sent a minute ago about vitamin D and understanding where your homes are faced, where your rooms are facing, northern exposure versus southern exposure. Don't be so quick to do 2 end tables. Often a floor lamp can make a big difference. A pedestal with a piece of artwork also can make a statement. This is a nice modern minimal room. Also, the room is not completely covered with area rugs. It's just a nice cowhide that has been thrown out. And this is another really inexpensive way to decorate. You take vegetable dyed yarns or vintage yarns, and you can drape them over sticks. The the art that's pink and yellow and purple to the left could be easily hung over a sofa to add an inexpensive swash of color. And here we see it on the right, just accenting a chair. Great way to get color. Opposite thought process of a can of paint. In this case, you're using the textiles. You also can, this has been done by many children at early ages in their formative years in school. A fun project, great project to do with your children, a fantastic project to do for your stores as it relates to merchandising. I'd love to give a nod to Anthropology. They do a great job with vintage textiles and reclaimed yarns, and really give a nod to what we should and can be doing to get a great look for less expensive amounts of money. Another example also, dream catchers have taken on. They're not just the small little ones that you buy when you're traveling through the mountains of North Carolina, but they're taking old vintage doilies, stretching them over armatures that are round, and then adding adornments to them, including feathers and vintage linens, to get a really great look. This can be done over a bed, over a sofa, on a wall. So the key of designing a healthy home on a tight budget is really understanding toxins and how harmful they can be. And you need to be innovative as it relates to this topic. Always choose healthy alternatives for you and your family and for your clients. I would like to leave you with just really thinking through, don't compromise. Ask the questions when you're at High Point. Make sure that you're buying products that are made with sustainable, healthy finishes. If you do end up with products that have are laced with some sort of toxins, then understand what it means to off-gas correctly. Open your windows, let the light in, and let the air flow. Ventilation is everything. And thank you so much for your time today. I think we're going to open it up now to questions and answers.
Yes, that is just so useful. What great information, Jillian. Thank you very much. And we do have some questions. There are a lot, and lots of questions about what in the world happened to our sound. And the answer is the internet went out here for a few minutes. I'm glad we got it back. But here is the question. Is the paint base low or no VOC as well as the pigment? I have found that a lot of brands market no or low VOC paint, but it is really only the paint base prior to pigmentation that meet that criteria. Do you know if this is true? I would say the answer is yes. And when you are getting that paint mixed up at the paint store, the paint is going to say on the can what the ingredients are, and it's going to say something about the VOCs. But when you are getting the color put in at the paint store, talk to them about it. Jillian?
Yes.
Any other thoughts on that?
Well, I do think that some of these milk paints are not considered enough.
That's a very good point. They're an excellent choice.
And I do think that there's not enough of cottage industry as it relates to the paint manufacturing. We've really, I want to be careful because I do subscribe to some of the bigger paint companies and do great work. Sherwin-Williams, their science department is really ahead of the curve. So is Benjamin Moore. They're doing great work. But there's some smaller companies, and we're starting to see them at High Point, which is really great. We never used to see paint dealers at High Point. But there are some smaller companies out there, and they really do understand how to get pigment on the wall with no VOCs and not have any chemicals involved. So I think we're going to see more and more of that trend, and I think we'll probably see the big paint companies and the smaller cottage industry companies coming together and learning from each other. I think we're starting to see that the lines are going down, the conversation is there, the dialogue is there, and the millennials want it. It's a generation that is going to be insisting on it, and I think that is going to push the industry in a positive way to help reduce the harmful toxins in our homes.
Yeah, good point. Next question. In regard to the chemicals, they are often used to treat crates and pallets which can off-gas into the home. yes, it's true. If something has come in through customs, there might be there often is a requirement that a certain like agricultural products or anything that might have foreign bugs on it has to be fumigated in a certain way. And yes, that fumigation does get onto the pallets. So if the pallets are green and haven't weathered by the time you're considering using them in a decorating project, then you should weather them somehow or find out from wherever you got them, if you can, find out what has been put on them, because that is a concern. Another question here, can you address the problem of reuse of materials removed from remodeling site? Often it costs more in labor to remove flooring, for instance, and carefully enough to reuse it. That's true. It does take working with your workmen carefully and making sure when you hire them that they understand your priorities and that they're able to do this kind of remodeling. Jillian, perhaps you can speak to that?
Yeah, I think that we're going to, first of all, I'd like to say that I think we're going to see less and less because these new floors that can only be finished once and twice are not going to be recycled into floors again. Their substrate might be used in some way as a recycling product, but the flooring industry has changed vastly in the last 10 years. We're just not seeing as many floors being laid in middle America. I wouldn't necessarily say in a high-end product, but in the production housing, we're seeing less and less 100% floors that can be refinished many times. So that is becoming less of a problem. But I do think when you're remodeling, the biggest mistake the remodelers make is by not inviting the folks to the table that are going to take these remnants and salvage them. I think that it's not necessarily should be put on the laborers' back to do this because it's not something that they do all the time. And I think one of the folks that should be added to the list of vendors when remodeling is a salvage company. Make an appointment, have them come out. They are very well versed on how to go about removing the product. They often will buy it from you right then and there on the spot because they have a place for it to end up. And salvage companies are always being asked by the environmentalists that are involved in housing to keep their eye out for certain products. So they have these lists where they're hoping they're going to be invited into someone's home and to be able to pull them out. So make sure I would say that's the number one. Make sure you invite the salvage representative to the table during a remodel.
Good point. Good point. Next question is, what exactly are milk paints? Milk paints are an old-fashioned kind of paint. It's a formula that was one of the first paint formulas developed, and it's called milk paint because it uses casein, and casein is a part of milk, and so it does actually have milk in it or have a milk ingredient in it. And it is, I have a funny story about milk paints. Somebody who knows somebody I know painted this table with milk paint. It looked so good, went in the house to get his wife and bring her out to the workshop and have a look at it. And it was not red anymore. The paint had disappeared, and he thought, wow, that really absorbed the color quickly. And then he noticed the dog's face was all red. The dog had licked it right up. So that tells you how safe milk paints are, that it is, as far as the dog is concerned, like drinking milk.
Well, the milk paints also are from lime. You'll see if you travel England and Ireland, many of the exteriors of the buildings are white, appear to be stucco, but it's lime. So a lot of your milk paints are made from milk and lime, and they generally with pigments are added. And borax may be used to make many of the milk paint recipes to assist the lime in dissolving. And it also then becomes a preservative. So there's a whole science to milk paint. But it really has been around since the beginning of painting.
Yeah.
Because we used, before all these chemicals came on the market, we used so much of what Mother Nature had to offer as it related to pigmentation and coverage.
Yeah. Good. Good. Thank you. And somebody's asking where you can get milk paints. Limeworks is an excellent source for lime paints. And Jillian, you might know a source for milk paints in specifically.
I think Miss Mustard Seed is another good resource.
Okay.
Um, I've been told that Martha Stewart has paints out that are made from organic materials, but that's a word that's so overused, as you know, Susan, in the industry. 100% organic is very different from a product that has some organic in it. It
Yeah.
really does go back to reading the labels.
Yeah.
My mother used to say, if you cannot pronounce it, it probably isn't good for you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, be on the lookout for those natural ingredients. And of course, use the internet. Be careful with the internet, but use the internet
Yeah.
as it relates to trying to find resources out there.
Milkpaint.com is one that we have used that I just reminded myself of with the handy internet on my telephone. And there are linseed oil paints are available from Viking paints, and or Viking Sales it's called, and they have other non-toxic paints as well. Another question about paint here, or a comment, someone is saying that she got a paint made with recycled paint, and the VOC was so high that she couldn't use it. Pointing out that made of recycled paint is not necessarily healthy. It's true. When we're recycling things, we have to be careful of what the ingredients are on that item.
When we teach our courses at Wellness Within Your Walls, and we speak to the second category, which is sustainability, we have a section that's about reclaiming and reusing and refurbishing. But one of the statement that I like to make that I feel can really address this question is, if it was really not good for the environment or you originally, why would we ever recycle it a second time?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a really good rule of thumb, and I don't think there's a market for recycling toxic paint. That market actually should not exist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Great. Great point. And so, do we have any other questions? This has been such a rich and informative hour, Jillian. Thank you very much for all you have shared with us.
It was my pleasure, Susan.
And so I hope you will all contact us at the contact here if you have any more questions for Sustainable Furnishings Council or for Jillian. We'd be happy to put you directly in contact with her. Someone is asking, Jillian, what is Wellness Within Your Walls? Why don't you just take a minute and tell us about Wellness Within Your Walls?
Well, Wellness Within Your Walls started about 10 years ago when we were involved with the residents called Eco Manor, which still has a website that you can look up. And at that time, I was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, and it became very important to me to figure out what was in our environment as an interior designer and a retail store owner that could, in fact, have caused this cancer. And I was astonished at the levels of information out there. And it was at that time that I got very involved with the Sustainable Furnishings Council, because it seemed to me it was one of the few places you could go and have the dialogue as it related to this. And the LEED certification program was really just starting to get going as it related to residential. So I got together with a group of women, and we wrote this program. It's 3 classes: natural, sustainable, and responsible. And it speaks to designing in a way that reduces toxins in the environment. And since we started the inception of this, which was 8 years ago, the courses were started to be written. 5 years ago, we started to deliver the first courses. It's now been accepted globally. We have ambassadors in different parts of the United States as well as different parts of the world. And it speaks just primarily to health and wellness, whereas the Sustainable Furnishings Council speaks to everything as it relates to sustainability. So we found that we have expanded upon a topic, and our number one goal was to reduce the amount of information into simple sound bites that we as consumers, and we are all consumers, can use in our everyday decision-making process to help rid our home environments of harmful toxins.
Great. Such important work you're doing, Jillian. And there is a website, and there are links on our website to it. And you can reach Jillian through Wellness Within Your Walls or through Sustainable Furnishings Council. And we hope you will reach out for more information and to learn more. So thank you all very much, especially thank you, Jillian. I hope all of you will join us again at the same time next month for our April webinar, which will in 40 minutes give 40 looks that we will have seen at High Point Market. I hope you'll join us for our programming there as well. Thank you. Bye now.